Hey guys, this is Ruli01 and welcome back to part 5 of What If Deku Had Lelouch's Powers. We're continuing it with the second event, the Cavalry Battle. So, it is announced that the first place having the 1 million points and is painting a target on Deku's back. So, he feels a little bit nervous that people won't team up with him, and he knew why. Uraka went up to him and asked if she wanted to team up. Deku gladly accepted her offer, and then Mei Hatsume came up. Hey, Zuku, nice to see you again. Let me join you. And then Uraka was slightly confused to who this girl was. She had never seen her before, but she knew Izuku. She asked, how do you know Izuku? Mei said bluntly, I made a baby specially for Deku one time when he came to see me. Uraka, visibly shocked, would be flabbergasted at what she had just heard from, and her face turning red. Deku, visibly embarrassed, explained to Uraka what she meant about the support item, and how she made his eye patch, and how Mei calls her vengeance her babies. After clearing up the misunderstanding, Uraka was relieved, but Deku was still worried that they needed one more member. But then Shinzo walked up saying that he wanted to join. Deku was suspicious of Shinzo asking why he wanted to join the team, that since he was the one who made the speech outside the class. As Shinzo answered, I have a similar quirk to you. Mine is called mind control. Shinzo gave a brief history of his life, how he was called a villain because of his quirk, and how seeing someone with a similar quirk to him in a hero course gives him hope that he could be a hero. And with that, Shinzo joins the team. Most teams are the same as in the anime, only difference is that Shinzo is on Deku's team, so that's the only difference. And Deku would use his Geass to stop anyone. Okay. So during the whole fight, Deku uses his Geass to stop anyone from getting the headband. Mei asks Deku to use some of her babies to get some advertisement for her, and he obliged. And he's using her jetpack and the hover boots. Mei gives Deku some special-looking grenades and mentions that they were specially made for his use only. In the beginning, many students tried to get Deku's headband, but used the Geass radius ability. He was able to keep the headband away from most of the match. But Deku knew that he kept using his Geass and might have ball even further, so he began using it less and less. Todoroki saw this and made his move, using the ice attack at a distance, trying to immobilize Deku's team, then steal their headband. Thanks to Mei's gadgets and Uraka's quirk, they were able to dodge most of Todoroki's attacks. But then Deku realized that they were surrounded by walls of ice. Thinking of the situation as hopeless, Deku began to panic. The only way to escape is most likely if they're going to be attacked as soon as they left. What are we gonna do? Uraka said. We can't stay here forever. We'll freeze. Then we'll be taken out, Shinzo pointed out. Deku tried to think of a way out. He could break one of the walls with One For All, but that leaves them open to attack as soon as they got out. They could fly as high as they can with the jetpack and Uraka's quirk, but they would be vulnerable in the air. Then Mei spoke up. This would be a good time to use those special babies I gave you. Huh? What do you mean, Hatsume? Deku asked, confused. Those grenades I gave you. They don't work like regular grenades. They explode, but launch out metal discs in a wide area with a reflective surface, allowing you to see people from many different angles. And since you need eye contact, even at a reflective surface, you should be able to use your quirk on someone from Todoroki's team, she explained. With the new information, Deku thanked Mei and began to formulate a plan. He related it to his team, and they all agreed. With everything set, Deku put his plan into action. Using One For All, he launched a special grenade into the air. After it reached high enough distance, it dispersed all the metal discs, and they expanded to the size of dinner plates. Then Deku looked for his target. He found it. Using his Geass, he took control of Denki and then had him electrocute his team. After Todoroki's team was incapacitated, Deku used the jetpack and Uraka's quirk to hover over the walls and then land safely. But then from out of nowhere, someone yelled, Deku! They were not in the clear because Bakugo's team came at the exact moment to try to steal Deku's headband. Bakugo charged toward Deku with explosions. Deku tried to use the jetpack, but it began to malfunction. And to make matters worse, Bakugo used his flash grenade and blinded Deku's team. As Bakugo reached for a headband, Deku grabbed Bakugo's wrist. What the hell? Bakugo was shocked. And then in the sound booth, OMG, how could Midoriya stop Bakugo? Wasn't he blinded like everybody else? President Mike said. And then Aizawa explained, it's pretty simple. Deku's eye patch. It works that it blocked the flash and allowed him to see with his left eye. Deku has twisted Bakugo's arm and then threw him. And Zero reacted quickly to use his tape to catch Bakugo and pull him back before he hit the ground. Now even more enraged, Bakugo roared at his team to charge at Deku's team. At the same time, Todoroki's team got back into the fight, and Ida, using his reciprocal burst, closed the distance between them. Being attacked from both sides, Deku didn't know what to do. He could use his Gias, but it was taking a toll on him. He didn't want to take the risk of using it and cause another evolution. Just as Bakugo Todoroki reached Deku, the timer ran out, and Midnight declared that Deku's team was the winner. Wow, this kid is on a winning streak. Can he make it 3 for 3 and win the sports vessel? Or this is going to be the end of his journey? We will take a quick break and then we'll return to start the one-on-one battles, President Mike said. Hearing they won, Deku's team cheered, but Deku was putting a hand over his eye. He was feeling a lot of pain from overusing his Gias. Uraka and Mei came to Deku's side asking if he was okay. Deku assured them that he was fine, he just needed a break, so they headed to the break room to get some rest. Shinzo saying that he would see them in the tournament, that he wanted to talk to his classmates in general studies. After a moment of rest, Deku felt better and he talked to Mei and Uraka about the events that happened at the Calvary battle, what they could have done better. Just then, Todoroki arrived and asked to talk to Deku in private, and Deku agreed. Uraka and Mei stepped outside for a moment while they talked. Todoroki, lacking canon, confronted Deku about being All Might's son. Deku just denied the allegations, explaining how his quirk was different than All Might and that his dad was working overseas. Todoroki repeats his challenge to Deku that he's going to win without using his other side. And then Deku says, "Why are you holding back? You have an amazing quirk. Why do you only use your ice? Why not your fire?" Irritated at the question, Todoroki got visibly angry and began to walk out. And then Deku continued, "If you do that, you're going to lose. Everyone else is giving it their all. You should do the same." And Todoroki responded by saying, "I will never use his fire," Todoroki said as he walked out of the break room. Surprised at what he heard, Deku could sense that Todoroki had his reason for not using his fire, and he wanted to help him. After a few minutes, Uraka and Mei came in after Todoroki left. Uraka asked what did they talk about. Nothing important, just reminding me of his challenge," Deku said nervously. Uraka sensed that Deku wasn't telling her the whole truth, but let it go. Izuku would tell her when he was ready to share. Mei commented, "Seeing that guy gave me an idea for a new one of my babies." Her listing off different inventions like a grenade that freezes targets, then sets them on fire, or a ray gun that can emit heat and cold ray, and etc. Seeing Mei go on and on like that reminds Uraka of how Deku was when he mumbles to himself about heroes, and they both seem very similar, making Uraka feel a little jealous for some reason. Deku was talking to Uraka and snapped her out of her thoughts. "Hey Uraka, you okay?" Yeah, I'm fine," Uraka answered, facing away from Deku, her face turning red. "Are you sure?" Deku asked, confused, but before they could continue, it was announced, "We're back, folks! It's time for the tournament! Our first match, Izuku Midoriya versus Shinzo!" This will be, Will the competitors make their way to the arena? Mike announced. Deku began walking to the ring. Uraka and Mei wished him luck, and Deku just replied with a smile and simple nod of his head. As both Deku and Shinzo entered the ring, crowd got louder as Deku was a little nervous. As the two contestants made their way, Midnight announced once they were ready to begin, the match started. "It's a real shame that I have to fight someone similar to me," Shinzo said. "I wish we could have both made it, but in the end, I guess this is the end of the road for one of us." "True, but like I said before, I'm going to prove I deserve to be 1A, Deku responded. Shinzo smirked. "Got you." "Huh?" Deku looked, but felt strange. Something in his mind was happening. It was going black. He was struggling for some reason. "You didn't know how my quirk worked." And now you're going to lose, Shinzo said. Shinzo commanded Deku to walk out of the ring. As Deku took one step, he stopped himself, as Shinzo was shocked to see Deku was not following his orders. Shinzo repeatedly yelled at Deku to get out of the ring. Deku was using all of his willpower not to take another step. Deku struggled to move his head to look at Shinzo's eye, but since he was not directly looking at him, Shinzo covered his eyes and kept a distance. Seeing what Deku was trying to do, knowing how Midoriya's quirk worked, he thought he would be safe. Deku in his mind was struggling. Trying his hardest to think of a way out of it. Shinzo keeping his distance and getting out of his line of sight, he couldn't use his Geass. And in the stands, Deku could hear Class A cheering for him, especially Uraraka and Mei. The girls in Class 1A noticed that Uraraka and Mei were being the loudest out of them, wondering if there was something going on between the three of them, and Mina was the most curious. Deku, with no other way, used full cowling, but didn't help. He was still struggling to get out Shinzo's mind control. So he raised it up to 15%, no change. Then he raised it to 20%, and then suddenly felt pain all over his body. Also, he felt that... he gained back his freedom and dropped to his hands and knees. Deku got up and looked at Shinzo, ignoring all the comments he was making and not talking. Not sure how his quirk worked, he just powered up one for all and punched Shinzo out of the ring, Midnight declaring Deku the winner. After Deku went up to Shinzo and helped him up, saying, "Great match, you almost had me there." "Don't mention it. I lost. You're better than me. We have the same quirk. Even with the element of surprise, I still lost. I'll never be able to hero. Why would they want me when they have you?" Shinzo said. "Don't talk like that. You did great. And our quirks are similar, but there's pros and cons to each." Deku explained the drawback of his Geass and the positive thing about Shinzo's quirk. "Train your quirk and work really hard like I did. Don't let what others say about you discourage you. You could be a hero too," Deku said. With this encouraging word, Shinzo shakes hands with Deku, and then, following his advice, he begins his journey to become a hero. As Deku goes on to join his class in stands, he sees Uraraka and Mei talking with the rest of the girls, while Uraraka is covering her face and starting to float. Let's flash back a little bit before Deku came back. Mina was asking Uraraka and Mei what's going on between them and Midoriya. Uraraka turned red and was waving her hands in front of her face, nervously saying, "There's nothing between us, we're just good friends." While Mei gave the answer, "He's a good guy. He's very smart. His quirks have to do with his eyes just like mine. And he's interested in my babies." The answer got me all excited and starry-eyed, wanted to hear the details. When the misunderstanding was cleared up, she was a little disappointed. Thinking it was going to be a juicy story. Mina asked, "Do you like Midoriya?" And Mei answered with a simple yes, Uraraka being shocked and yelled, "What?" With this, Mina got even more interested, especially at Uraraka's reactions to Mei's answer. She continued, "So are you going to date Midoriya?" Mina asked. Mei was puzzled look on her face, thought about it, and then said, "Maybe. It would be interesting. We could talk more about my babies, and he could teach me more about heroes." All the girls reacted to Mei's answer with gasps and ohs. Mina then turned to Uraraka, who was red in embarrassment. "What about you, Uraraka? Do you like Midoriya?" Uraraka was embarrassed to the answer. She couldn't. I don't know. I never thought of him like that." And then began to remembering all the moments she had with Deku as she got more and more red. She covered her face with her hands, and then she began to float. Deku rushed over to grab Uraraka before she floated away. Deku settled Uraraka on the ground and then asked her what was going on. Mei was about to say everything that was said, but Uraraka covered her mouth before she could say, "Oh, you know, girl talk, something boys wouldn't like to know." "Okay, that's fine, I guess." Deku didn't think much of it. He was oblivious. Mina was smiling fiendishly like she was conducting a grave scheme. They all sat down and watched the next game. Deku was sitting down with Uraraka on his right and Mei on his left. The rest of the battles on the second match going like in canon, Todoroki versus Sero, Todoroki wins. Third match, Ibara versus Denki. Ibara wins. Fourth match, Ida versus Mei. Ida wins after being a walking advertisement for her inventions. Fifth match, Mina versus Aoyama. Mina wins. Sixth match, Tokoyami versus Momo. Tokoyami wins. Seventh match, Tetsu versus Kirishima. It's a tie, but then Kirishima wins the arm wrestling. The 10th match, Uraka versus Bako, would go the same, but Uraka would have given Bako more trouble in close quarter combats as she trained with Deku in martial arts. She learned a good combination of martial arts with her quirk, and it was quite a challenge for Bakugo. She managed to get a few good hits in, but in the end she lost. Deku jumped off from the stands, picked up Uraka, and carried her to the recovery girls' office bridal style. All the girls were excited at that, especially Mina. Next, the second round, Deku versus Todoroki. Endeavor talks to Deku before the match, starts telling him to give it his all to get Todoroki to use his fire, that he's just a stepping stone for his son to beat All Might. Deku spoke up. He's not a tool, you know. He's a person. And the way you talk about your own son like that, you treat him like a weapon. Quiet, boy. You know nothing, Endeavor answered. I know when you crave power, it consumes you. You lose yourself and you'll do anything to get more. And some people abuse that power and other people pay the price. What you did to Todoroki was wrong, Endeavor, and I hope you get what's coming to you. Endeavor was about to blast Deku with fire, but Deku just used his Gyos to stop Endeavor. Deku wanted to make Endeavor pay for what he did, but if he used his Gyos on him, everyone in UA would know it was him, especially All Might. He couldn't disappoint them. Also, he didn't want to abuse his power. That's not what a hero would do. Deku made his way to the ring, leaving Endeavor hypnotized for a few minutes. Then he was released, confused at what happened. As Deku and Todoroki approached the ring, the crowd grew even more excited with anticipation. Big Night signaled the match to begin, and quickly Todoroki used his ice to launch a wall of ice to Deku while using it to keep a safe distance from Deku's quirk. Deku, using full cowling, dodged the ice easily, trying to close the distance. Todoroki kept sliding around the ring with his ice while sending wave after wave of ice toward Deku. Deku kept dodging to get close enough, punched through the ice, surprising Todoroki. Deku was on Todoroki's fire side, and Todoroki tried to turn to attack his ice side, but was punched in the gut, sending him flying. Todoroki was able to use his ice to get from being thrown out of the ring, creating a wall around him, right at the edge. Deku was pressed his attack, continuously striking Todoroki with his punches and kicks. And only attacking areas that wouldn't seriously injure Todoroki but incapacitate him. Deku pushed Todoroki to the point where he was suffering frostbite and suddenly stopped. Deku did not continue attacking and just stood there. Why aren't you attacking me? Go on, finish it, Todoroki said. I'm not continuing until you use your full power. Or you give up. The choice is yours, Deku said. Did my father put you up to this? Todoroki asked. No, he didn't put it up to me. I did speak with him before the match, but I told him I don't agree with the way he treats you. So he got upset and he was going to burn me. But I put a stop to it. Deku answered, as Todoroki would say, why do you care? It has nothing to do with you. I care because I'm here giving it my all, as well as the others in the festival. And you're thinking you could half-ass it. I'm never going to use his damn quirk, Todoroki said. It's not his quirk, Todoroki, it's yours. Hearing that, Todoroki struggles with his emotions, remembering all that he's gone through, the abuse at the hands of his father, what happened to his mother. Todoroki then suddenly ignites his fire, normalizing his body temperature. Remember, you asked for this. I don't want you to hold back either. You better use both your quirks as well, Todoroki demanded. I wouldn't have it any other way, Todoroki, Deku said. In the stands, Endeavor was yelling Shoto's name, but quick glance from Deku made him shut up and sit down. Todoroki laughed. Did you do that? Yeah, he was getting annoying, Deku said. Deku and Todoroki sized each other up and they charged at each other. Deku threw out a solid punch at Todoroki but was able to block with his ice and threw a fireball at Deku. Deku managed to dodge it in time, boosting to 15% for a quick second. Now that Todoroki was using both quirks, Deku had to change his strategy. After a few close encounters, Todoroki's new way of fighting, Deku was able to find a weakness. Todoroki always uses fire with his hand, but always uses his ice with his feet, when he stomps his foot. So, with that knowledge, Deku goes in for an attack. Todoroki, seeing it coming, would ready his fire. Deku keeping going forward, but at last moment, with almost point blank range, Todoroki would launch his fireball, but Deku would slide under the fireball, sweeping Todoroki's legs and pinning him to the ground, immobilizing him. "Do you give up?" Deku said. Deku positioned Todoroki's arm away from him so he wouldn't get blasted by fire. Todoroki struggled so he could but he wasn't as strong as Deku, and he knew it, but it wasn't over. "Never," Todoroki yelled as he blasted as much fire as he could, getting Deku slightly off balance, this giving Todoroki some room to move his leg and blast some ice, causing Midoriya to retreat, but his leg getting stuck in the ice. With Deku immobilized, Todoroki shot a fireball towards Deku. With no way to dodge, Deku blocked it with his bare hands, using 20% one for all, putting a strain on his body. Deku successfully blocked the attack, but suffered some minor burns on his arms and his upper body. His jacket and his shirt were burnt off. The girls in 1A all got a good look at Deku's body, and they liked what they saw. "Well, that was close," Deku said. "But it's gone too long. It's time to finish this," Deku said. Todoroki agreed and began to prepare an attack, combining his fire and his ice for his absolute zero attack, while Deku powers up to 25% and dashed toward Todoroki. Todoroki's absolute zero and Deku's 25% smash collided, and the explosion was more than in cannon. They were both still in the ring. The ground was covered in ice and fire all around. Deku struggled to get up, but was leaning on the ice shard that was near him. Todoroki got up, but barely, with his hand extended, waiting for blast Deku. He made a move. "Now it's your turn to give up," Todoroki wheezed. Deku chuckled. "This was a good match, but I remember promising you that I would use both my quirks." Todoroki was confused at what Deku said. Thinking in his mind, he's too far for him to use his quirk, and he's not facing me. But suddenly he was hypnotized and declared that he gave up. "What happened?" President Mike said with confusion. "Midoriya won because Todoroki forwarded the match. It seems perfectly clear," Aizawa said. After Deku declared the winner, Todoroki was released from the Geass. Todoroki was confused, but Midnight explained what happened, and then he asked Midoriya how he did it. "Simple. I used the reflection off the ice as a mirror and used my quirk to make you submit. But if you had attacked me, it would have been over. I couldn't move my body anymore." As Deku was done explaining, Deku collapsed, and Deku was immediately rushed to recovery goal, where she used her quirk, and Deku's injuries were healed, but he was still unconscious due to fatigue. Deku's classmates were worried about him, all except Bakugo. The ones that stayed with him were Uraraka and Mei. The rest went back to the matches. Uraraka and Mei were anxious about Deku being unconscious for so long. Uraraka was a little upset that Mei was also here. She wanted to be the one that Deku saw when he woke up. Wanting to clear her feelings, she asked Mei, "Do you really like Deku?" And Mei responded, "Yes, I do. At first it was because he was very smart and capable, but after seeing him I'm starting to think that it's something more." Uraraka was jealous of her answer, not just her feelings for Deku, but she was honest about it and not holding it in like she was. "Now it's time for me to ask you a question," Mei asked. "Why do you like Deku?" Uraraka was taken aback at the question. She started to get flustered. And she responded, I like him because he's a great guy, so caring and thoughtful. He never gives up and he would do anything can to help others. He inspires me to do better, and even when I doubt myself. So why don't you just say it? Why hide your feelings, May asked. Because I'm afraid that if he doesn't like me, because he's an amazing guy, and any girl would be lucky to have him. Also, you said you liked him. I don't want to get between you two if you decide to date him. I don't see how that's a problem, May said. You should tell him how you feel. I don't mind. Uraka was confused. How can you say that so easily? What if Deku picks me over you? How would you feel? What May just answered, I would accept his feelings. Look, I don't know much about relationships. My babies were always the most important thing to me, but after meeting Midoriya, that changed. Uraka understands that May is trying to tell her that she should not be afraid to take a chance. We should both tell him how we feel when he wakes up. You never know. He might choose both of us. I wouldn't mind that. Uraka was shocked at what he just heard. What? How can you say something like that? That could never work. And May responded, who says it can't work? Anything is possible. If you work hard at it, isn't that what Deku would say? Hearing those words sparked something in Uraka. Yeah, you're right. He would say something like that. With all the feelings out and open, Uraka May decided to tell Deku everything when he wakes up. Inside Deku's mind, however, he's falling into a giant abyss. There's a blur of images passing by, each going so fast it's hard to make out any of the images. Then he hits the bottom, but then he's surrounded by 9 people. Some appear fully visible, others covered in darkness. He goes to speak, but he can't realize. He then realizes that some parts of his body are covered by the darkness. His mouth and some of his torso are gone. One of the people surrounding him stepped forward and began to speak, this being Nana Shimura. Oh, so you're the 9th user, Nana said. Deku wanted to speak but couldn't. Nana smiled at him. It's okay. You don't need to use your mouth. You can just speak with. You could just think what you want to say, and we'll hear it. We're in your mind, after all. Deku began to converse with, using his thoughts. Who are you? And then, I'm Nana Shimura, a hero and former user of One For All. I was also Toshi's teacher. Who's Toshi? Deku asked. Oh right, you might know him better as his hero name, All Might. Deku was visibly shocked to hear that his mind began racing. To hear that what was happening, I'm a little bit off. He was speaking to the previous user of One For All. Nana clapped her hands to get Deku's attention. I know this might be overwhelming and confusing, but we don't have much time to explain everything, so we need you to try your best and pay attention. Nana said. Deku and Nana began to listen. Nana explained about One For All, its origins, and the previous users, and how part of their souls were in the quirk, and how Deku would soon manifest some of the quirks of the previous user. Deku was dumbfounded to hear that. Nana continued to mention that there is something inside him besides One For All, her looking at the 9th figure standing besides the one of All Might. It looks similar shape to Izuku. The only thing that's not covered are its glowing eye with the Giyao symbol. At first he was thought he was the spirit in the current user, but he is a different power. Not a quirk, but he doesn't seem bad. Anyways, it's time for you to go back. Please give Toshi and Torino my regards, Nana said. Suddenly, the floor erupts and a bright light engulfs Deku. In the real world, Deku's body begins to shake and he starts to float, and One For All and Black Whip activates. Uraka and May scream in horror, not knowing what's happening to Deku. Recover Girl came in and surprised to see what was happening, and she quickly called All Might and he rushed over. He was both amazed and terrified at what was happening with Midoriya. With the help of All Might, they were able to strap Deku down, but Black Whip was still going out of control, so they had to call Aizawa to cancel Deku's quirk, which made him stop, but his body was still convulsing. After a few minutes, Deku woke up asking what happened. And he was suddenly tackled to bed by Uraka and Mei. Deku, completely flustered, turned to the red as tomato. What's going on? Uraka was with tears in her eyes and told Deku what happened. After he collapsed, he manifested a quirk. Deku thought that weird dream he had wasn't a dream. He actually met with the previous users and his Gios. After wiping away Uraka's tears, Deku apologized for making them all worry about him. He then asked to speak to All Might in private, and the rest left. Uraka Mei saying they had something they wanted to speak to him after the sports festival, and they would see him later. What did you want to speak to me about, young Midoriya? All Might would say. Deku told All Might everything of his dream about meeting the previous users of One For All, Nana Shimura, and that he learned about All For One. Visibly saddened to know that his mentor wishing him well even after passing. All Might shed a tear. Thank you, my boy. I was glad to hear that my master again. But things are going to be even more difficult for you. You're going to manifest quirks from the previous users. And from that display earlier, it's going to be difficult to control them, All Might said. You're right, All Might, but it's my responsibility as your successor to master this quirk, Deku said proudly. Then a sudden realization hit Deku. The sports festival. How much time has passed, and was he disqualified from the tournament? He was in a panic. All Might calmed Deku down after he was having his panic attack, explained that he was out for 30 minutes. The third rounds barely started, surprisingly. Some of the matches lasted longer than they expected for some odd reason. In actuality, Class 1A made a plan to stall for time so that Midoriya would make it to the finals. So Ida tried to drag out his fight, Ibarra, but was pushed to the end to end the match after 5 minutes because Ibarra would try to, strangle him or catch him with their vines. So that was it. He couldn't drag it out. Mina and Tokiyami did a great job of dragging their match for 10 minutes, and Mina forfeited knowing that she couldn't really continue. Last match, Bakugo didn't want to drag out the match, but Kirishima, pumped up at the manly display that Deku showed during his match to Orochi, inspired him to do his best. The match lasted longer than in the anime, with Kirishima showing signs of his unbreakable mode, but ultimately lost to Bakugo's explosions. Deku and Ida's match was switched with Bakugo Tokiyami to give him more time to recover, and the match is still going on. After a few moments later, it was announced that Bakugo won his match. It was time for Deku and Ida's match. Deku got out of bed and went to the arena. The crowd was surprised to see Deku making his way to the ring. Look at this, ladies and gentlemen. Izuku Midoriya is back and is making his way to the ring. Can't anything stop this kid, Mike said. Midoriya is full of surprises. Let's see if he shows any here, Aizawa said. Wow, you never spoke like this about any of your students. What's up with them? Is he your favorite student or something? Mike asked. Maybe. Midoriya has shown his tactical mind in a variety of situations, as well as his skill controlling his quirk, not to mention his determination and drive. He has the heart of a hero, which is a rare to see nowadays. Well, there you have it, folks. Aizawa endorsing Midoriya. Now let's get the match underway, Mike announced. Midnight signaled that the match began without hesitation. Ida used reciprocal bursts and charged straight at Midoriya. Deku powered up One For All to 10%, not wanting to strain his body again, and waited for Ida to get close. When Ida gets close, he grabbed Deku's shoulders, wanting to push him out of the ring, like he did with Ibarra, but Deku prepared and grabbed one of Ida's arms and threw him over his shoulder. Ida hitting the ground with such speed, it made an indentation in the ground. Deku waited to see if Ida was going to get back up, but he never did. Midnight checked and Ida was knocked out. The force of which he hit the ground was enough to knock him out, so Midnight declared Deku the winner. Then it was announced that it would be Deku versus Bakugo. They were given 10 minutes to rest before they began the match. Ida went to Recovery Girl's office and later woke up. He checked on his phone and he had a message about his brother being attacked by the hero killer, so he leaves for the hospital. Deku was nervously waiting in the break room by himself, trying to focus on his match with Bakugo. It wasn't going to be easy. Bakugo, since they both know each other. The same trick won't work twice on Bakugo. He'll keep his distance and attack with his explosion. Deku began to concentrate very, very hard, and then he noticed he was floating a little bit off his chair. As soon as the concentration was broken, he fell back into his chair. Confused at what happened, he realized it must have been one of the quirks the previous users of One for All. After all this was over, he would ask All Might if he knew the previous user's quirks so he could know what to expect. It was announced that the match was going to begin, so Deku made his way to the ring. Here we are, folks, the finals. The first two students have proven that they are UA's top class. Aizawa, who do you think's going to win? It's anyone's game. They're both exceptional with their quirks, and they're very tactical in battle. It might come down to who has the stronger will to win, Aizawa said. You heard it here, folks. Let's the final match begin. Midnight signaled, and the match began. As Deku expected, Bakugo was attacking him from a distance with explosions while trying to avoid eye contact. Deku was dodging Bakugo's explosion and tried to close the distance but was unable. Bakugo keeps shooting bigger and bigger explosions, limiting Deku's chances to counterattack. Damn it, Deku. Why don't you just give up, you damn nerd? Bakugo yelled. I won't give up, because never giving up, no matter how difficult things get, is the essence of a hero, Deku answered proudly. You damn bastard, die! Bakugo roared as he continued to fire his explosions. Not seeing any other way than to power through, Deku dashed towards Bakugo, dodging explosions, but as he got closer, Bakugo managed to hit Deku a few times. Even with that, Deku was able to get close enough to punch Bakugo in the face and then send him flying. Bakugo used his explosion to gain his balance, then he noticed he was bleeding from his nose, and he felt a little dizzy. He might have suffered a concussion from Deku's punch. Bakugo wiped away the blood, and he was irritated at the situation. That Deku, a person he perceived as weak, was right now facing him as an equal, and he couldn't stand it. All his life, Bakugo was praised for being strong, and he was a prodigy. Everyone else was beneath him. He was the best, especially better than a quirkless Deku. Then something snapped in Bakugo. That's it. I'm going to fucking kill you, Deku. No more holding back. Bakugo yelled in rage. He charged at Deku with his howitzer impact. Deku powered up to 30%, knowing that it would be the same as last time. He needed to win. As they were getting closer to each other, Midnight tried to stop them, the match, but were able, and Cementos built barriers in between them. In front of them and around the arena to protect everyone. They collided, and both were sent out of the ring. Bakugo was on the ground, out of bounds, but when they saw Midoriya, he was floating in the air. Surprised at what had happened, Midnight was stunned before the moment till Mike yelled in surprise, I can't believe it! Bakugo is out of bounds, and Midoriya is floating in the air! What an amazing upset! After snapping out of the confusion, Midnight declared that Deku was the winner. After hearing that Deku broke his concentration and he hit the ground. His body was in extreme pain. He had pushed himself too far. When Deku and Bakugo were both in Recovery Girl's office, he got scolded for taking things too far. Especially Midoriya. His bones were slightly broken, but he would recover. But if anything like this happens again, she would not heal him. With that taken care of and the reward ceremony done, All Might giving the medals and words of encouragement, Deku was the first, Baku was second, but tied up because he was pissed that he lost and the fact that Deku had another quirk. And lastly, Todoroki was third. After the festival ended, Deku went with Uraraka and Mei to get something to eat. Once they started talking about the events of the sports festival and how amazing Deku was, which he got embarrassed about. Then came the thing that Mei and Uraraka wanted to talk about with talk with Deku. Uraka and May both confesses their feelings to Midoriya, and him being dumbstruck that two girls said that they liked him. He never had any romantic relationships in his past. He was always bullied and didn't socialize with anyone. But this, but then this happened. Deku had no idea what to do. Deku liked them both equally, and he thought they were cute, but he doesn't know how to choose between them. And if he chooses one, the other would be hurt, and he wanted to do that. As May saw that Deku was pondering this, she just gave a suggestion. We're not asking you to choose one of us. We're asking you to date both of us. Hearing that, Deku.exe crashed, and Uraraka was embarrassed that she covered her face. After a minute of rebooting and processing, Deku spoke up. Isn't that irregular for a person to date two people? And both of you can't be alright with it. May simply answered yes, that they were both alright with it, if he was. Deku then turned to Uraraka. Are you really okay with this too, Uraraka? Uraraka shyly answered yes. May asked Deku what he thought of them. Well, you're both cute. Uraraka, you're a kind person, and I like the way you smile at me. It makes me happy. May, you're very smart, and your inventions are amazing. Even if they don't always work, you don't let it discourage you. You persevere, and I admire that about you. Both Uraraka and May turned red hearing that, and they wanted to hear his answer. If you're both fine with a person like me, then I'll date both of you. Upon hearing that, both of them got close to Deku and kissed him on the cheek. And this is where I'm going to end it, guys. So next time I'm going to go through the internship arcs. And don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you guys later.